To me, like I don't know. I don't know if I want to say this, but I always laugh that it's almost like training a dog, training your clients to use your systems.
This is the Agency Profit Podcast, the podcast for agency owners that want to run a more profitable business that doesn't depend on them. Introducing your host, CEO and co-founder of Parakeeto, Marcel Petitpas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Agency Profit Podcast. I'm very excited to introduce you all today to the host of a show that I've been listening to, an OG, I suppose, in the agency podcasting world. He's the host of the Agency Highway, which if you haven't checked out, check out the show notes and go listen into that podcast. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. He's also the founder of Aktura Tech and a company called ContentSnare, which he started out of the agency. So with all of that, really excited to welcome you to the show, Mr. James Rose. Thank you for being with us today.
Marcel, I'm excited to do this. Thanks for bringing me on. I love that you say this is like it's an OG podcast. I feel like it's not, but I guess we are coming up on 100 episodes. So it's been around a little while now.
Awesome, man. So look, there's so much that we could talk about, but there's one thing that I think you've done incredibly well. I did some research on you before you came on the show, and I'm really interested today to dig into, how we create essential processes in our agencies that free us up from like the grips of clients. I think so many agency owners that I talk to are in this situation where they like the relationship they have with their clients get out of hand. They start getting communications in all these different channels. The clients are constantly asking for different things and creating scope creep. And it can feel overwhelming when you've got a handful of clients and they've all got their own way of working with you. So that's really, I think, where we want to dig in today. From your experience, what were kind of those really key processes that you had to get in place in order to start freeing yourself up from all of the complications that come along with working with clients?
Yeah, it's one of these things that like it builds up, there's so many different things to fix and you've just got to knock them over one at a time. And eventually it adds up to like a fairly automated agency. But I think one of the biggest ones by far, because you can automate email, you can automate like workflows using Zapier. That's like, I love that stuff so much. But if we're talking about like really freeing you up, like biggest bang for your buck, it is client communication. Because you mentioned it before. It's like everyone deals with like trying to wrangle clients. And so getting that process sorted it was the biggest thing for us by far. And that for us originally meant a good project management system and a way for information to come into that project management system from clients. So the system we used was Teamwork and Teamwork Desk. That's the project management system and the support ticketing system. And the reason that was so good is because when a client can email in using a system they're familiar with, email, and it comes into our support system, which enabled us to quickly create tasks and action them and apply them to projects or whatever, so that our developers could work on them. And then when they were resolved, it would bounce back into the support system and we could tell the client it was resolved. That's for like ongoing maintenance and ongoing like retainer work. But that system was just so good for us, and I guess like another key there is actually putting someone in place to manage it. So we had a project manager who like / account manager, I guess, or almost like they handled it wasn't really support, but just that communication to get in and out of the project management system. That to me was the biggest starting point.
So when it comes down to like, if I'm an agency owner and I'm living in this world that we've all been in, where, I just haven't dialed these things in yet. I've just been kind of getting my agency going. I'm getting clients, but we haven't really figured out that process. What's kind of the guiding principle when I go into trying to set up a system to streamline this?
Like training is the big thing, like especially with clients. I know that was because this comes up all the time, people, whether it's, with ContentSnare, for example, people will come to me and say like they might be considering canceling ContentSnare because they're like, my clients won't use it. To me, like I don't know. I don't know if I want to say this, but I always laugh that it's almost like training a dog, training your clients to use your systems, because, and I remember doing this like vividly with our agency. It was like when we moved to that support ticketing system, we had a special email address. It was help at our domain, right? .com. And clients would still email me with like different things that they needed done, right? Because they were used to doing it, or sometimes they'd just spoken to me during the proposal process, so they'd keep emailing me. And even though I'd like reiterated like 2 or 3 times, I would say, no, I need you to email this address, but I've put it in the project management system for you, right? And I do that, and it doesn't train them, right? They're still getting what they need because they've emailed you and they're still getting the thing done. So what I started doing was just being busy, right? In air quotes there, if you're listening to this, and forgetting to email them back, or for not seeing their email because it got buried in my busy inbox. Really, I was just like sitting on that email for like 5 days and then replying back and being, oh my God, sorry, I just saw this. This is after they've done the wrong thing like 3 or 4 times, and being like, oh, this would have been done already if you just sent it to the right address. Which is this one. Can you please do that now? And like, I'm sort of laughing thinking about this because it seems like a little bit, I don't know what the word is, but like it worked 100%.
I think that's such an important takeaway, because the purpose of the process is to ensure that you're able to better support your clients and more consistently get them to the outcomes that they're hiring you to get them for, and I think that's where a lot of folks, like, they forget about positioning the process, which is such an important part. It's like, you're having that conversation with the client about, like, you're hiring us to get you this outcome. Here's what you need from us. Here's what you expect from us, but here's what we need from you. But here's all the things that we've done to make what we expect from you really easy for you to do for us.
Yeah, and there's a whole lot to that as well, like making sure it's in the proposal and like upfront, on the first page of your proposal, all the things you expect from them, and like how long they have to reply to feedback requests, or how long they have to get you content, like, and what systems you're going to be using, and that's got to be really clear from day one. It's got to be mentioned in the meetings you have with them, in your proposals. Like you got to say it early and reiterate multiple times, because if you just say it once that like, oh, we're going to need content before we start any work, they're probably not going to hear that. But if it's reiterated in like your process document, your proposal, you've told it to them 3 times on the phone, like they know by that point.
Hey, it's Marcel here, and I just want to take a quick second to thank you for tuning into the show. I hope you're getting so much value out of today's episode, and if you are, then I want to encourage you to head on over to parakeeto.com, where you can get access to even more great resources to help you run a more profitable agency, like additional episodes of the show, blog posts detailing the things we talk about, as well as lots of free downloadable checklists, spreadsheet templates, and other resources, all designed to help you run a more profitable agency. So with that, hope you enjoy the rest of the episode, and I'll let you get back to it. Once you've gone ahead and set up a process for client onboarding or a process for client communication, and you're now in the stage of trying to get your existing clients to start doing this and getting your new clients to adopt this process, what are kind of some of the key do's and don'ts that are either going to work for you or work against you when you're going down this road?
I think number one, the overall principle is make it easy for them, make it dead simple. And that's why with the ticketing system we use, it had to work with client email, because I'm not going to send them a message, or when they need something done, I know they are going to go to their email, type in an email address and send something that they need done. They're never going to go over to some system, hit submit a support request, make them log in probably half the time. Like, they're not going to do that. So making it easy and just familiar with them. So another example of this is ContentSnare, right? So over time, pretty much all the work, like 80% of the work we've done on ContentSnare has been making it easy for clients, because at first it was a system that clients had to log into, and then it looked like a form, and there was like buttons that they had to, like, once they were finished with one piece of content, they had to tick a box to say, yep, this one's completed, it's ready, actually literally said this one's completed. And so they didn't know what that meant. And now it's very much like they have a link. They don't have to log in. They hit it. it's a really simple interface. There's one thing on the screen at a time. They type in the box and they hit the submit for review button and move to the next item that they need to provide. And that, like, just the text on submit for review, we spent like 3 hours trying to decide what that button text would be so that like even the biggest dummy knows what it's doing. Right?
It's so funny because I just spent 2 hours in a meeting right before this podcast interview doing a very similar process for our onboarding.
Yeah, and because there's another button next to it that's like save draft or save draft and continue. So those two buttons, we were just going backwards and forwards. It's like, what can anyone work out what these buttons do? You know, so that's what I'm getting at here. Is it's just like, man, it's got to be dead simple for them. Otherwise, your processes are not going to get used. So that's there's more parts to that too. Like in what if you want them to follow your processes, got to be easy, but you also have to guide them through it. And by that, I mean, like, tell them exactly what they need to do. If you just send them a link and say, give us your feedback, versus actually telling them exactly how to give you feedback, like, that's the difference I'm saying here. It's the same with content. So if you ask for a copy for a homepage, don't just say, can I have your copy for a homepage? You need to like tell them exactly what they got to do. So we need a headline. We need a hero image. We don't even say hero image because that's like a web designer term. You know, we need a background image. We need, I don't know, like a description of your services. And when you ask for the headline, it's got to say, aim for 6 to 12 words, no fluff, describe exactly what your business does in as few words as possible, benefits, not features, you know, like, tell them what you need them to do. Don't just say, give us your homepage copy. And you might include videos with this stuff as well to show them how to give you feedback, to like demonstrate what good content looks like. You know, video goes a long way. So the two key things there are, again, make it easy for them and guide them through it.
Awesome. There's your hot 2 tips, and the two or I don't want to specify a number, but what are some of the kind of key killers that are, if you do these things, you're guaranteed to have your clients just run the gamut on your process?
A bad one is like burying things in your proposal. You know, I've seen conditions like, we need your content in 7 days, or we need design feedback revisions, you have 2 days, or whatever. And it's like on page 37 of the contract in size like 6 text, and no one's ever going to read that, right? We've been in this game for a long time. We can visualize things. You know, we know what an ad campaign looks like. We know what items are needed for a Facebook ad. We know what, you know, how big the images are supposed to be. We know what a header, visualizing this as we're talking to the client. We know what their website might even look like. They don't. If they're just staring at this like page going, oh, what do I write? Like, that's way too difficult for them.
And you're just asking for scope creep. You're asking to have to go back to them a dozen times to to be like, this isn't what we were looking for.
There's almost like a thing where clients sign up for, once they've signed the proposal, it's like they think their work ends. Where it's just like, oh, I'm done. I made the hard decision. We're done. But then you need obviously all this stuff from them. And if you can make that process as easy as possible, you know, communication and like every touch point with you needs to be simple.
It helps with visibility too. Like I find one of the big things that I hear a lot from the client side is like they feel like they're in the dark. They don't know where their project is. They don't know what's happening next. They don't feel like they have that visibility. And unless you're over communicating as an agency, which is a lot of work, having a process can allow you to just like allow your client to place themselves in that process. So you don't have to be constantly communicating for them to know like, oh, we're in the design phase and I have an idea of what's going to happen after this. And
yeah, you know what the easiest way to fix that is? A weekly email. What we did this week, what we're doing next week, and anything we need from you. Just standard, like block out, you know, an hour or whatever it is on Friday to follow those 3 things with all your clients. I didn't make this up. I stole it from someone else, and it's amazing. Like, it's so simple. It's just, you know, right now, you know, this is what we've done. And, you know, this week we wireframed your site. Next week we plan on turning them into designs. And right now we need the feedback from you to make sure the wireframes are right. You know, it's a very simple example, but just those 3 things once a week, that's not hard to do. It's not a lot of work to keep that level of communication.
James, do you have any final tips for agencies that are trying to get a hold of their client relationships?
Everything has got to be simple. especially for busy business owners that just don't have the time to be working at different new things. That's the main thing. It's got to be super, super, super easy for them.
Yeah, totally agree. And remember, if they wanted to spend a whole bunch of time managing someone that was going to do this work for them, they would have hired somebody internally instead of going to an agency. The reason they hired you was because they didn't want that overhead.
Yeah, put yourself in their shoes, like think about how busy they are, what they know, like try and get rid of, like just think about how much, I guess, the stuff you have in your head, you got to realize they don't. They don't understand the systems. They don't understand the web like you do. So get yourself in their shoes when you're coming up with these systems.
Awesome. Huge value add. So if you're interested in checking that out, check the show notes. We'll have links to ContentSnare, JimmyRose.me, as well as the Agency Highway podcast. So with all of that, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. And James, thanks so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Marcel, that was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Well, that's all for today's episode of the Agency Profit Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode. And make sure you head on over to Parakeeto.com to get access to lots of other great resources to help you run a more profitable agency. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next episode.